Hi, I said I'd do a video on the attachment of these rubber tracks. This one's from the Tiger, but I'm just talking in general here. So I've done a number of my tanks with this. Now just look at the end there. So they've got 4 little pins and 4 holes. And the usual method is that they tell you to heat it and press the little pins over with something a bit difficult to see there. Now those are very, very small and weak little pins. And while you're welcome to glue them, my method doesn't involve them being glued whatsoever. And the only aspect I will say is that those little pins must just not be in the way. So you can either clip them off at the base, or I mean they're sort of handy to position it. So I'm almost of the opinion, put them through and heat them and get them down in position as if you were going to let that be your only method, simply to get them out of the way and give you a sort of a head start on things. If you haven't used a heated item to glue them down, to melt them over before, practice a little bit on some of the, some of the tracks come with a little bit of extra, sometimes attached here, sometimes on the side. If you don't have any of that in the particular kit that you're working with, see if any of your other kits have got, and keep your extra bits of rubber just for the purposes of practicing things. The only thing you mustn't do is go and damage your tracks. So if you're not comfortable doing the heating, just clip them off or just glue them. And the only thing you don't want is for them to be visible sticking out afterwards. Right, so what you are going to use is your standard household staples, which according to this box says it's a number 6. I don't think you would use bigger than a number 6, and the smaller ones are a number 10. So your smaller household stapler, number 10. So what you do is take off one of those. Pretty easy to get a couple off. So take a staple, and after you've positioned this in the manner in which it is suggested that it'll fit, find out if those holes will match a staple going through. So on this one, in such a way that it covers the overlap of links, top surface and bottom surface. So for instance, there I have got it going through in such a way that it will cover that. You don't need to worry about the others, what's going to happen on the other surface at the moment. Fold it over, and that's put in another one as well. And that is now just setting this so that you go and can test it on your vehicle. And what you're interested in is, because now you will have set it in such a way, just bending those little bits over on the staple, such that you can go and fit this on, roll it on, because I'm hoping that you've done your wheels such that all of the wheels can move. And if you were not of the opinion that you should do so, then please do so. Make sure that all your road wheels can turn, sprocket can turn, idler can turn. Just making it easier for you to roll this on without putting undue strain on it, rather than having to pull this over your sprocket with its teeth. Get it over the sprocket first and then roll it over the idler, feeding it gently so that you don't put strain on this. Now, the Tiger is of course a big tank and its tracks are stronger than many others. But in general, the principle is there's no reason to overstrain your track if you don't have to. So what you're interested in at that point is in judging the fit of the track. If you were to keep the staples in that position, which is the suggested position by the kit manufacturer, and it should be correct, so 99% we're expecting a good result there. And you're just judging it. You're judging, is it ever so slightly loose? Is it ever so slightly tight? Get your tracks on, just get a feel for it. If that is the way you were to leave your vehicle, then that is a good position for our staples to be in. And you can use, although it's sort of somewhat obvious that you've got a left and a right side's worth of holes, although on the Tiger you've sort of got a slightly weird system, but you can position the staple in a number of positions. On the Tiger here I can see 3 positions, let's say 3 positions. And if you don't have adequate positions, you can stick it through. Don't stick it through on the thick part of the track, stick it through on a part which is almost a hole going through. So it's obvious when you look at it that there's certain places which are exceptionally thin for you to fit staple through, and choose a good spot. Now, not all tanks are equal. Many Russian tanks are designed, or let's say the nature of their tracks is such that there's a significant amount of track sag. So if I did that on this vehicle, I would find that the track was very loose, which is good because what I need to do is introduce track sag in between them. So I'll come back to that on the track sag on this KV2. What I was first interested in doing is achieving a suggested positioning for my staples. Great. Now if you're happy with that, feed your staples in such a way that hopefully different tracks give you different results in trying to hide that staple. This has obviously got very strong grooves going that way, which means your staple is going to sit right on top of that. And you could be tempted to put it rather on the bottom surface so that when you fold your staple top over there, you can get it around one of those grooves and hide it fairly well. That's your choice. Try both methods, because all you're wasting is a staple or 2. However, what I will say is that the place where we're going to try and hide this stapled zone is right on a sprocket, which means it's going to be curved. So don't plan on this being on a flat section, because it's going to be more visible on a flat section than on a sprocket I think idler wheel or sprocket is a good choice. Right up under there, or right up under there. You may change your mind and decide that underneath might be an idea. It depends how much the staple distorts your track. If you do it really nicely, you can get away with your track being so good. So this little SDKFZ251 has got that done with the small staples in such a way that I had to look for about a minute to find my staple on that side, whereas on this side I could find it because I put it right in the middle at the bottom, which wasn't the best choice. I did two different things. This would have been an earlier one where I was doing, I was trialing the staples. So what this means is that when this vehicle sits on a flat surface, you may actually see the one because you've got that little bit of a step, whereas the other side is very nice and flat. Use 2 staples per side. Use 3 if you want, depending on the strength of that track over the wheels. But you don't want to overstress it. So having decided on how many staples, your positioning of the staples, and your positioning of where this is going to end up on the tank, you can then bend it over, and obviously also giving the required bend to that part of the staple itself, so that you don't have a straight bit of staple on a curved track section. And if you do that nicely, practice it once or twice, you'll be able to hide it extremely well. So this one has got that done, and it is not obvious to me at all where I've done this. I would have to look pretty hard to find where I've actually made the join on this KV, but that was easy because the KV again is such a huge tank that the tracks lend well towards smaller staples being hidden pretty easily. Okay, I think, yeah, there's the one. In fact, there's both of them. So I've decided to put them just onto the join there, so that the tank sitting there would cover that. It's on a slight curve, and that I chose that as the area that's most hidden. Now, if you look at that, you will notice the blemishes of having heated that and bent them over, but it has held. Now I can't actually see my staples, which means that on this particular model it looks like I got away without staples at all, and probably the reason is that this track is not under tension on the KV because it's got all of that track sag. Okay. Now, regarding that track sag, what you can't see there is that I have got 2 pins through the hole and coming out almost to the edge of the track over there, 2 over there, 1 over there, 1 over there. Going right through the hole, drilled through there with, possibly it was brass rod that I used, and positioned onto the track to give the correct hyperbolic curve for those 2 sections, and just a single curve for those 2. And I don't think I'd be able to give you any camera angle where that's actually visible. So I position that such that it slides right into the groove between the natural track treads, and that allows me to and of course that takes some measuring to get the correct depth on the hole. To, you know, if you've positioned your pins too far down, you're going to pull your track too far. So there was obviously a fair bit of measuring. This model comes from, I'd say, early 90s, Tamiya KV2. Okay, now, so back to the track. You've got, if you've decided to go with the staples, looks like that KV also only had a little single line. So what that tells you is it is possible to get it right without it popping open. If you've decided to go with the staples, or if you've decided to go with melting it down, and you've prepared yourself for the position of that, do all of that before you paint this, because you will be doing so much manhandling of this track and tweaking it over your road wheels and your sprockets and so on. You'd be scratching your paintwork a fair bit. Then once you've done that, you can spray this. Makes it slightly awkward, so you could possibly put something inside there that just keeps it open while you spray all around the insides, all around the outsides, turn it over, spray all the angles. It does take a fair bit to spray all of the areas of the track. I quite like to spray with, and I think, well, on this one I sprayed with that sort of semi-rusty metal color, even though it's not an iron track link, but I did that just to get the sort of non-polished look of the metal. But whatever you decide with as your initial color, don't make it the silver, because that just looks way too shiny and bright. When I say silver, I mean more gunmetal. Make it a little bit of a dirtier color, and then you do a lot of dry brushing in your silver. So that's what this one has got. A lot of silver dry brushing, but not enough to make it over the top. Of course, it depends on what ground or what terrain the tank has been driving through. This one, I think this one I just kept sort of the brown. This was fairly simple, not much effort done. It was just brown with a bit of watercoloring. I do prefer the rubber tracks. I've done a few tanks with the independent track links. It's also, it's not a case that you're actually going to go and take your tracks off some years later, but in the event that something required you to redo some parts of your tank, you decided to refurbish it or whatever, obviously now with the tracks able to simply be rolled off again, it allows you to do a maintenance, whereas when your tracks are individual track links, that's glued on and that's done. So whatever painting you're going to do afterwards, you have to get in between the wheels and the track links, which is very, very difficult. So I quite like this. It also saves a hell of a lot of time. But I must say as well, do you see that little thingy there? So with these rubber links, there's another two there. The molding is such that it's not perfectly crisp, and you should go around either with a clipper and just take off these tiny little extra almost rubber flash bits. Don't be tempted to do that with a lighter, because this rubber melts fast, extremely fast. Now also just notice there's little molding. You see those things? Now that's going to stop this from getting onto the road wheels. All of those little things, they must be clipped off. They are ejector pin marks on rubber. You need to get them all off. There you can see them all. I think that covers most of what I had to say. I have had a case where the rubber needed to be stretched quite strongly to get over, and there was the danger of actually causing the rubber to split and break apart. Or at worst, where your staple goes on, you needed to stretch it so much that you're deforming a couple of the what should be straight tread patterns. So, just think it through, plan it carefully. You don't want to be putting so much force on that you're actually distorting the track. And you you normally won't have to be dabbling with it so much because they've prepared it in such a way that it fits really well. This one in here, the Char 1B, has got an interesting track which looks like you would have to force the staple through onto onto one of the thinnest areas. So where you're going to be trialing your position, just try and make it such that the the damage that you're doing to the track is absolutely minimal. If you stick it through and you pull it out again, there'll be no damage. But mostly it's pretty easy enough. I mean, this isn't a highly technical task to figure out where staples should go for the best result. And then it's just a case of folding them over, painting them the same color as what you painted your tracks, put them on, get them into position, and again just go and take a little screwdriver or something small and just press in the little ends of the staple. I do find that it's better to have the long part of the staple on the outside, because if it's the other way around, the tension can sort of push it open. But there's, no hard and fast rule. Whatever works for you in the particular case, that's what you do. Try both ways, see what's the best result. Okay, hope that helps. Cheers.